Welcome. As mental health professionals and experts in behavioral change, we are always looking for opportunities to understand how people change. One of the key issues in behavioral change deals with weight changes because at the end of the day, we live in a nation constantly trying to quote unquote control their personal and national weight. In fact, weight loss is a major enterprise. It happens, but in many occasions, people cannot maintain that weight change. So, for me, this is a great opportunity to interview Laura Crider, which is a person who has accomplished a major landmark in terms of weight change and has maintained that change for at least 1 year. She's also the person who leads the Weight Watchers program here in this particular institution, and the person who will tell us about her change. So, Laura, thank you for being here. Please share with us, how did you change?
How did I change? That's a good question. I don't know if it was a very deliberate thing on my part. Uh, I made a decision, and weight loss for me is all between the ears because you have to have your mindset correct. You have to have the motivation, the drive to want to change, and you have to be fully committed to the change that you seek to make. And you have to have a roadmap of how to get there after you've made the decision. So for me, it was a very analytical decision that I needed to make the change and put in place several strategies to make the changes and bring about more change. The biggest thing I say to make a big change is to not make a big change.
Help me understand that.
Um, I found because I had such a major amount of weight to lose, I could not think of the big picture. I had to think of a small, very small. In fact, they said, think smaller than small, think minuscule. And so for me, I would think, I've got 5 pounds to lose. And I 5 pound myself up into 136 pounds. So I never once thought I have over 100 pounds to lose because that will tend to make you overwhelmed and breed discouragement. And you want to accomplish something, you gotta chomp at it little pieces at a time. So that's why I say, don't make big changes. Just focus on very small things, and then the rest will follow it.
Now, interesting because when you say it's all between my ears, it's basically a mental attitude. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes.
And then you want to have the clear goal, you want to have the understanding of how this is moving, and you also want to know how to proceed or go about it. But before I ask you more about that, share with us. So, over time, you went from what weight to what weight?
Over a course of 18 months and 2 weeks, I went from 270 pounds to actually my first goal was at 150 pounds. Since then, I've dropped an additional 16 pounds. I'm at 134 pounds now.
134. Fantastic achievement. Now, when I think about your process, I just can't avoid asking you, by the way, have you tried to lose weight before? And if you did, how many times? And why it didn't work then and why it work now?
To ask an American woman that is very amusing because we're forever trying to lose weight. So yes, there's been many attempts. They work for a short time, but that's because of the mindset issue. To me, in this country, we have a lot of mindset of diet, and that is not the proper mindset to make lifestyle changes for permanent. My catchphrase is A diet is a temporary solution for a permanent problem. A lifestyle change is a permanent solution for a permanent problem that you have, which is overweight. And you can't think of, I need to do this for 6 weeks. The changes, if you do it for 6 weeks, you will be successful for 6 weeks. Once you stop that, you're going to no longer be successful with it.
I see.
And that's the big difference for me.
Laura, what motivated you this particular time to achieve this outstanding life change?
I will honestly say the motivation at this point was entirely different than past. And I think because I felt there was a health concern, I felt like I was basically a half a step ahead of a heart attack, that I realized how seriously I had impacted my health, and it was time that I had to try to undo the damage, the best I could. And, when you're younger, you do it because you want to look good, you want to wear something. None of that was part of my motivation. It was, I wanted to be able to walk to the top of my stairs and not be out of breath. I wanted to be able to walk to the top of those stairs without my right knee feeling like it was going to give out or give me pain. I wanted to eliminate those things or minimize them as much as possible. And I had talked to a friend who was a cardiologist, and I had started telling him how I was feeling. I came home from work. I wanted to eat. I wanted to lay on the couch and sleep. I didn't have energy to do anything. And I told him about being out of breath at the top of the stairs, and he said, well, I think we need to get you in for a stress test.
For a stress test?
Yes. And not knowing my background, I haven't necessarily been fond of medical doctors. To have a medical doctor who is a heart specialist tell you that you need to get a stress test, that was like somebody took a sledgehammer and whacked me on the head.
I see.
And it was literally, that was a wake-up call, a light bulb going off, whatever you want to call it. That was when I realized this is serious.
Well, help me understand this one, because that's an important moment in our life when somebody says something to us, and internally you say to yourself, this is really serious. How did that impacted you at that moment?
Well, it scared me. And I felt that was a good motivator, fear. It also reinforced that I wasn't imagining what was happening.
I see.
And I couldn't deny what was happening. In my heart of hearts, I knew it was serious. And he just kind of reaffirmed by him saying to get a stress test how serious it was. And I had no desire to get a stress test. No desire to go see a cardiologist at all. So it literally, that flipped the switch in my head, and that's what totally turned things around. And literally the next day I joined Weight Watchers online.
And why choosing Weight Watchers?
Well, it's a program that my mother had done. She had been successful with it. She had not maintained the success, but she had been successful with it. I had also previously done it twice before. And I had been successful, but not maintained it.
And we're going to talk about the specifics of how you achieve this, but in the meantime, let me ask you, how do you maintain this change over time? Because truly, you are, still keeping the weight down. How have you maintained it?
Well, one of the things is I'm kind of a stubborn sort.
Okay.
And I read a lot of the weight loss statistics, which are horrible, that basically within a year, only about 10% of the people maintain their weight loss, or even less. I was determined I was not going to be in that, 90% who regain. So I was very stubborn about that. Also, I know that if I allow myself to gain the weight back, I'm going to be right in the same position, and I didn't want to go back.
I see.
And that was the thing, that I did not want to put my health at risk again, because there's been so many positive changes that I just did not want to go back. And that was the big motivator to keep going. And that's the problem with diets, there's an end date, an expiration date to a diet. But when you change your lifestyle, it's the way it is, and there is no end date. And you don't have to think, oh my goodness, if I do this or I don't do that, then this is the end. No, it's not the end. Once you get to your goal, it's just the beginning of more of the same.
I see what you're saying. So it's not a short-term intervention in a sense, or effort. You have made a lifestyle change.
Right, and I had tried one other weight loss program before where they had prepackaged foods, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I was very successful. I'd lost 86 pounds on their program. But as soon as I stopped eating their prepackaged foods, guess what happened? I was in that 90% that regained the weight and then some. So that's why I know those kind of programs really are not helpful, because there's no behavioral changes, there's no lifestyle changes. And it's got to be a lifestyle, it's got to be a full ingrained change, or it's not going to work permanently.
I see. I see. Now, I know that you achieved your goal, but then you lose even more.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have actually reached a milestone, which is a year anniversary of this.
Right.
What have helped you to achieve this other?
The additional?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a funny thing. You know how when we grow up, sometimes we have ideas in our head and we think these ideas are where we need to be. Well, when I was in my 20s and lived in California, I had been trying to be very healthy, went vegetarian, did all the things, very active. I was losing weight, and I had set a number that I wanted to reach, which was 135 pounds. And as close as I became to that number was 143 pounds. I was 8 pounds from that. So when I started this year at 143 pounds, and I was extremely excited about that, because I was going back to when I was 23 years old, and you know how we always want to turn the clock back. I was like, if I can get here, I feel safe that I can get to that number. Now, I'm not saying I wanted to necessarily in my head maintain that number. It was just the idea that I can do it. So that's why I pushed on. I started, I think it was around the end of February, 1st of March, pushing. I mean, really going back into weight loss mode instead of maintenance mode to try to lose the additional. And it happened.
It did happen.
And it happened. So that was a big accomplishment for me, because I was able to accomplish something I wasn't able to accomplish when I was 23 years old. So that was a big psychological boost of turning the hands of time back. And then to have someone on the national scene to even validate that even further, because that was, you know, as you know, they ended up selecting the outfit I had when I was 23 years old on as the outfit that I was going to be on national television in. So it was kind of like a good, exciting psychological boost that I had indeed accomplished that. And not only had I accomplished that within myself, it was something that everybody in the world knew about, you know, and that was very exciting. And I had lost half my body weight, which was also another thing that I kept thinking, all these magazines you see, I said, oh, I would like to be one of those people. Oh, no, I can't be one of those people. You know, you have this little mental game. I would love to do it, but no, I'm not going to do it. I can't do that. And so I didn't even think about that. My point was I wanted to get to 135 pounds, and then the light bulb went off. That's half my body weight.
That's half your body weight.
Yeah.
What an achievement.
So, like I said, it was a good thing, and the biggest thing is my health has improved. I can run up the stairs now. No knee pain.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second, but
Yeah.
before we close this segment, help us understand what did it mean to you to be invited to a national television program because of your achievement, the loss? Because I said gain.
Yeah.
No, this is a loss in
Yeah.
a sense. A
But it was a
successful
big
loss.
gain.
It is a big gain. Becky.
Actually, it was so strange when I decided to submit.
Mm-hmm.
I psychologically sat down and just kept thinking, I'm doing this, Now, you're not going to hear anything, so don't be disappointed. It doesn't change my accomplishment. It doesn't invalidate what I've done if I never hear another word. And so that was my attitude before I pressed submit. I literally kind of kept thinking about this. Don't get your hopes up. Just know that if you hear something, it validates, but it's not invalidating if you don't hear anything. So I pressed submit and literally walked out of my office and came back and sat down at my computer, and literally within 30 minutes, I had a response from an NBC producer wanting my cell phone number to talk to me. I was in a state of shock, literally, when I read the email, and so much of shock that I hit the reply and typed in my cell phone number and hit send. That's all that I did. 20 minutes later, I went, and then I went back and actually typed a response to this producer thanking her for, everything. And I just said, I am so sorry. I was just so stunned. And she was like, no problem. So I had a feeling that that's kind of a common reaction.
Very good, very good.
So
I think that that's a great description and a good moment to end this segment of the conversation. We're going to come back on the next segment to talk about how you did it and to share with us, some of the advances and struggles in that process.